You know that bag of potting mix sitting on the shelf at every garden centre, supermarket and hardware store? The one everyone grabs without thinking? That soil is wrong for almost every houseplant you own. And I don't mean a little off. I mean fundamentally wrong. Here's the thing. That mix was built for outdoor bedding plants. Plants that sit in open ground, get rained on constantly, and dry out fast because wind moves across them all day. Now take that same mix, pack it into a sealed pot, place it on your windowsill with a tropical plant, and you've just created the ideal setup for root rot. Most people blame overwatering. They blame underwatering. They blame fertilizer. But 9 times out of 10, the real problem is the soil itself. Water can't move through it properly. Roots can't get oxygen. The plant is slowly dying from the roots up, and nobody realizes why. Today, we're breaking down every soil type, every amendment, what each plant actually needs, and how to build the right mix at home for almost nothing. And stick around for the gravel drainage myth near the end, because it's one of the most common mistakes in houseplant care, and it's doing the opposite of what people think. Before we get into specific mixes, let's talk about what soil is actually supposed to do, because most people miss this entirely. Soil is not just something that holds your plant upright. Think of it as a life support system. It has to hold enough moisture so roots stay hydrated, drain excess water fast enough that roots never sit in standing water, and keep enough air pockets so roots can access oxygen between waterings. Those 3 jobs fight each other constantly. A mix that holds lots of moisture tends to lose its air pockets. A mix that drains super fast dries out too quickly. The right mix for any plant is whichever one balances all 3 based on how that plant evolved. A cactus from the desert needs soil that drains instantly and dries out completely. Almost zero moisture retention and maximum airflow. A tropical aeroid from a rainforest floor needs loose organic debris that stays slightly damp but never waterlogged. Moderate moisture with solid drainage. A fern from a cool, shady woodland wants high moisture retention with steady humidity. Same planet, totally different soil needs. Using one mix for all 3 is where most problems start. If you're getting value from this, go ahead and subscribe. We drop a new plant topic every single week. So what's actually in standard potting mix? Mostly peat, moss or coco coir, composted bark and sometimes sand or grit. The whole formula is designed to hold moisture, which makes perfect sense for outdoor plants in a garden border where sun and wind dry things out fast. But indoors, there's no sun baking the surface, no wind pulling moisture away, and no open ground for excess water to escape into. That mix just sits there wet for way longer than it ever would outside, and it gets worse over time. After about 1 to 2 years, the mix compacts and breaks down. The structure collapses, air pockets vanish, you're left with a dense, soggy block that stays wet for weeks. That's the state most houseplant soil is in by the time you notice something wrong. Not the soil you bought, the soil after a year or 2 of sitting in a pot. Here's what's happening at the root level. Roots need oxygen to function. When soil pores fill with water and stay full, roots get cut off from oxygen and start dying. Then anaerobic bacteria, the kind that thrive without oxygen, move in and break down the dead tissue. That's root rot. It doesn't start with too much water. It starts with soil that can no longer hold air. So the fix isn't watering less. The fix is building a mix that drains well enough that the soil never stays oxygen deprived. That brings us to perlite. Those little white beads that look like tiny bits of styrofoam in potting mix. That's volcanic glass heated until it puffs up into a lightweight porous granule, and it is the single most useful thing you can add to any houseplant mix. Here's how it works. Perlite particles don't absorb water themselves. Water coats the outside of each particle while the gaps between them stay filled with air. So when you water a perlite heavy mix, the water moves through quickly and air rushes back in right behind it. Roots get moisture from the coating on the perlite and oxygen from the air pockets. That's the exact cycle healthy roots need. For most tropical houseplants like Monstera, pothos, philodendron and peace lily, adding 20 to 30% perlite to standard potting mix changes everything. That's roughly 1 part perlite to 3 or 4 parts mix. You go from a moisture-retaining sponge to a genuinely well-draining mix. For succulents, Cacti and snake plants, you want more. 40 to 50% perlite, or just grab a dedicated cactus mix that already has grit in it. Quick note, perlite has zero nutrients. It's purely structural. It improves drainage and aeration but does nothing for feeding. You still need to fertilize your plants. Perlite just makes sure the roots are healthy enough to absorb what you give them. Now let's go through the main plant categories and what each one specifically needs. Tropical aeroids like Monstera, pothos, philodendron, and alocasia evolved in warm rainforest environments with loose organic matter on the forest floor. They want a mix that holds some moisture but drains well and stays airy. Your best bet is quality potting mix with 20 to 30% perlite. Some growers also add about 10% orchid bark, which creates chunky air pockets and mimics the loose debris these plants naturally grow through. Succulents and cacti evolved in dry or semi-dry environments with fast-draining mineral-heavy soil. They need a mix that dries out almost completely between waterings. Cactus and succulent mix works fine straight from the bag. If you're using standard potting mix, add 50% coarse grit, horticultural sand, or perlite. The mix should feel gritty and crumble apart easily. If it clumps when you squeeze it, it's too dense. Snake plants and ZZ plants both store water in their leaves and rhizomes, making them extremely prone to root rot if they sit in wet soil. Give them a fast draining mix, 40 to 50% perlite in a standard base, or just use cactus mix. Never use a moisture-retaining mix or add water-retaining crystals to their soil. Orchids shouldn't be in soil at all. Most Phalaenopsis orchids you see in stores are epiphytic, meaning in the wild they grow attached to tree bark with roots fully exposed to air and occasional moisture. They need orchid bark, sometimes mixed with perlite or sphagnum moss. Standard potting mix will suffocate their roots within months. Ferns and Calathea come from humid, shaded environments with consistently moist but never waterlogged soil. They want a moisture-retentive mix. Standard potting mix with 10 to 15% perlite for structure works well. A small amount of coco coir improves moisture retention without compacting the way peat does over time. Fiddle leaf figs and rubber plants prefer a well-draining mix that dries out moderately between waterings. Standard mix with 20% perlite is a solid choice. These plants are sensitive to both overwatering and root disturbance, so repot as rarely as possible and only go up one pot size at a time. Okay, now let's get into the gravel myth, because this one really needs clearing up. You've probably heard the advice. Put a layer of gravel or stones at the bottom of your pot to improve drainage. Sounds totally reasonable. It's completely wrong. Here's the physics. Water moves through fine material like potting mix easily. But when it hits a boundary between fine material above and coarse material below, it stops. Water molecules cling to each other and to the fine particles around them. They won't jump from dense soil into the large gaps between gravel unless the soil above is completely saturated first. What actually happens is the potting mix above your gravel layer becomes waterlogged before any water reaches the gravel at all. So you haven't improved drainage. You've moved the waterlogged zone higher up in the pot, closer to where the roots are. This is called a perched water table, and horticultural research has been demonstrating it for decades. Every study lands on the same result. Gravel layers in pots do not improve drainage. The only reliable drainage solution is a hole at the bottom of the pot. Not gravel, not rocks, not sand. A hole. If your pot doesn't have one, drill one or use a nursery pot inside the decorative outer pot. And speaking of pots, the soil and the pot work as a team. The same mix behaves completely differently depending on the container. Terracotta is porous. Water evaporates through the walls, which actively wicks moisture away from the soil and lets roots breathe through the pot itself. For overwatering-prone plants like snake plants, succulents, and ZZ plants, terracotta is the safest choice. It is genuinely hard to overwater a plant in a terracotta pot. Sealed ceramic and plastic pots hold moisture much longer because water can only leave through the drainage hole and the soil surface. For plants that like consistent moisture, ferns, calathea, and peace lily, that's fine. But for succulents and snake plants, it means watering far less often than you'd expect. Pot size matters just as much as material. A pot that's too large holds way more soil than the roots can use, and that extra soil stays wet for weeks. Go up one size at a time. The right pot size is one where the roots fill most of the space. A plant that's slightly snug will always do better than one sitting in a sea of unused wet soil. The most common repotting mistake is doing it too soon, too often, or into a pot that's too big. The second most common is doing it at the wrong time. Here are the actual signs a plant needs repotting. Roots pouring out of drainage holes in large numbers, roots visibly circling the soil surface. Watering frequency has jumped because roots fill most of the pot. Growth has slowed despite good light and feeding. A few roots at the drainage hole alone aren't an emergency. Many plants prefer being slightly root-bound. Pothos, peace lily and spider plants all bloom more when their roots are a bit crowded. Repot in spring right at the start of the growing season. Winter repotting stresses a plant already running on low energy, and damaged roots have no growth cycle to recover in. Use fresh mix. Keep the plant at the same depth it was before, because burying the stem deeper can cause stem rot. Water lightly after repotting and then leave it alone for about a week so the roots can recover. Here's the best part. You don't need specialist mixes for every plant. You can build everything from 3 ingredients: a quality peat-free potting mix or cocoa coir base for organic matter and moisture retention. Perlite for drainage and aeration, which is cheap, easy to find, and the most effective amendment you can make. And orchid bark, optional but useful for Aeroid since it's chunky and long-lasting. For tropicals like Monstera, pothos and philodendron, 3 parts potting mix, 1 part perlite, plus a handful of orchid bark if you have it. For succulents and cacti, equal parts potting mix and perlite or coarse sand. Should feel gritty. For snake plants and zezed plants, 2 parts mixed to 1 part perlite. For orchids, orchid bark with a small amount of perlite, no potting mix. For ferns and moisture-loving plants, 3 parts potting mix with a bit of cocoa coir and a little perlite for structure. Standard potting mix compacts over time and loses its air structure. That oxygen loss is what causes root rot, not the water. Perlite is the easiest fix. 20 to 30% for tropicals, 40 to 50 for succulents, and snake plants. Gravel at the bottom of a pot doesn't help. It makes things worse. A drainage hole is the only real answer. Match the mix to the plant and go 1 pot size up at a time. Got a specific plant and not sure what mix it needs? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if this helped you out, subscribe. We cover a new topic every week in this format, and the library keeps growing.